I've been thinking for a while about a fundamental problem we have in Space Engineers with time, and I think I found a pretty easy way to fix it. Here's the problem. Time in Space Engineers exists in two contexts. The first one is the time you spend in the game. So there's your character on the planet, or in space, whatever. And then the time you, the player, spend outside of the game. And these are very different times. Here we have 12 hours, here we have something. To get around this, the game added a script which shows you the time. You can get an analog clock, or you can get a digital clock, and this shows it even better. This is where the two contexts clash. Outside, like I'm trying to be immersed in the game, right? Outside, it's something like midnight. The time, on the other hand, apparently is 13:13, which is noon. This is an issue. This is not workable. At this point, this time script is basically eye candy. Well, then, what's the point? So in any space game where you can go to different planets, time is an abstract thing. We can't think of time as we'd think of it on Earth. I think a good way to think of time, and a simple way to think of time, is to divide it into 4 stages. There's night, there's morning, there's daytime or noon, and there's evening. Essentially, that's what time is in functional terms to us. That's what it would be if we were just landing on planet to planet, each one of which has a different period and a different day and all that stuff. The details would become irrelevant. They would become blur. What would be important is how much light is there. And I think that's also what's important in Space Engineers, because it's much easier to build when everything is bright, but you're also the most visible when everything is bright. So essentially, you care about how much light there is. So dividing things into these 4 groups is easy, it makes sense, and you don't have to fuss with numbers. Well, then we just extend this by analogy to a clock face. We can make a clock face where we still have 2 hands. The short one essentially makes 1 revolution a day. It shows you where you are in the day. And then the long one shows you where you are in one of your sections, where you are in this. And 4 of these make up the day. And then here there's a little nuance. I was thinking about this a lot, why the clock face has 12 hours when the full day, the full sort of cycle, has 24 hours. And I think I have an answer, at least for myself. And the reason is that you divide the full rotation of the Earth into 2 major periods. One is dark, and you don't care about it because you're asleep. Conceptually. This one is the one you care about. And this is the one that you, in our case, divide into 4. So essentially what happens is the short arrow has to make 2 revolutions per cycle, because here is where you have the morning, the noon, the evening, and the night. This also has those things, but they happen in the dark and are irrelevant because we're asleep. But this, of course, is the full rotation of the planet, or in the case of Space Engineers, the full rotation of the sun. To solve this problem in Space Engineers, what we do is we build a clock. We'll build a clock at the airport. I think that makes sense here. So now how do we get it to work? Well, it's actually very simple. Let's see. We are going to say, well, first we're going to turn off the hour and the minute rotors. Then we're going to say, for example, just to see how it works on a small scale. This is in revolutions per minute. If we want the hour arrow to go around the clock once per cycle, we're going to say once per minute, then we're going to say 1. The minute rotor has to go around 4 times faster because the minute hand now shows the length of 1/4 of the whole cycle. Then we're going to say 4. But that's wrong. As the minute rotor sits on the hour rotor and the hour rotor already makes 1 revolution per minute, you need to subtract that 1 revolution per minute from the 4 that the minute rotor makes. So essentially we need to put 3. And now if I turn them on, this one goes around once for the short one to go around 1/4. So when the long one is on top, the short one's going to be here. All right, so it works perfectly. Now the only thing that's left to do is to slow it down to the actual time. Let's do some basic math. In the world I'm playing in right now, one day is 6 hours. We're dealing with real world time now, except for this. This is game time. So 6 hours is 360 minutes. In these 6 hours, I want the hour arrow to go around twice. One time for the day, one time for the night. Which means that it needs to go around twice in 360 minutes, which means that it needs to go around once in 180 minutes. That's the same as 1 over 1/80th revolutions per minute, which equals 0.00555. I think Space Engineers will let you do this, or maybe one more. Now, this clock will drift. So after a certain quite large, I think, number of cycles, an error will start to show up, like a visible error. You know, it'll show midnight, but you'll say, nah, dude, it's morning already. And you'll have to correct it. That's a problem in the real world as well. There's just no way around that. So this is for the hour arrow, for the short arrow. For the minute arrow, 3 times that, because the one time is taken up by the rotation of the hour rotor, which is 0.01666, blah, blah, blah. So I guess in Space Engineers we'll do this. In creative, what I'm going to do first of all is find midnight. So let's say I'm going to look at the shadows. All right, so something like here the sun is directly above. This is going to be my noon. So here I'm just going to do 180 degrees and say this is midnight. All right, so this is my midnight. At this, and in survival, you just wait. You know, maybe 2 or 3 cycles until everybody agrees that, yeah, okay, this is midnight. And then you do the setting of the clocks. And the way you set the clocks is, first of all, you stop the rotors. I'm actually going to sit down for this so I can see the clock. And then you bring them back to midnight, I guess. So I'm going to bring the hour back. That seems to be vertical. Something like that. All right. And then I'll bring the minute back. All right. So they're more or less aligned. I mean, how accurate do you need to be? At this point, I'm going to turn them off. And now I'm going to set their speeds. So the speed for the hour one we said was 0.005555. And let's see how much of that it saves. 56, yeah, so okay. And for the minute, it's going to be 0.016666. It sets it to 0.167. All right. And I just turn them on. If you have multiple clocks, you turn them on all at once somehow. But yeah, here you have now a clock that shows you the time relevant to gameplay. So you can know how long till light, for example. That's very important. You never know that in Space Engineers when you're playing in survival. And you can forget your weird outer world time that shows up on scripts. And this clock is completely vanilla. It works on Xbox. It works on anything. It doesn't cost much. It's super simple. It's 2 rotors, a plate, and 2 sticks.